Hi, and good morning, and hello to you there. So, I wanted to start today off with just a little discussion about levels of practice and our own levels of being as we're doing Qigong. So, one of the things that I'm acutely aware of in myself is the fact that on different days my practice is at different levels. And this might be because of my workload, this might be because of the amount of rest I've had time for, this might be because of my diet at the time, it could be a whole bunch of emotional factors, it could be a whole bunch of anything that I'm experiencing and is going on for me at a time. So one of the things that's really important to realise is that this connection between body and mind, this interoceptive interconnectivity is absolute. There's no point where it isn't in action within us. And there's always going to be a response on the basis of that. So some days, we might practice in the morning and have a fantastic morning. Other days we might practice in the morning and not be so good. And it's because there's always an accumulation of something taking place for us. And sometimes that accumulation is an accumulation of rest, it's an accumulation of nutrients, it's an accumulation of positive emotional experiences. Maybe we've been receiving a lot of massage, or we've had lots of hugs, we've had lots of positive emotional experiences taking place, and that will lead to one level of practice within us. On the counter side of that, we might have had a bad day, we might have had a heavy workload, we might have had an argument with our spouse, all sorts of things might have taken place that will change our practice again. So as the mind is dealing with all of these situations, the body is also responding concurrently. So a contraction in the mind is also a contraction in the body because there isn't a separation. We have this idea that they're separated, but they're not really separated. So we kind of need to bear that in mind as we're practicing and be an allowance of ourselves. And it's very easy, there's so much media out there of people performing epic, beautiful practices where they are insanely picturesque, and it seems that their movement and their behaviour is just incredible, which are in dissociation for that. How can I ever be like that? How can I be that incredible? It's part of our own shadow self, part of our own psychology potentially working through that. So it's really important just to allow your practice to be what it is on any day. And I also need to do that. I'm somebody that as I do my standing practice, every time I do it, I'm feeling back into the practice and exploring the practice and noticing myself. And I'm constantly reviewing the body and becoming aware of what's arising within it, of what I'm noticing within it, and then adjusting and allowing my practice around that. So I can smile into those areas, I can soften them. As I become aware that I'm holding tension somewhere, I can allow myself to just release it, lengthen that area, change what I'm doing ever so slightly. And it's a constant daily vigil. It's not that it's a chore or a difficulty or a problem or anything like that. It's just that it's part of what we do each day in practice. And I don't really need to have any adverse judgment of myself regarding that. Some days this shoulder will be tight. I have old injury in the shoulder. So some days this shoulder will move or feel differently depending on whatever else is going on in my life at that time. Sometimes my back will feel free or be loose, or something will be better there depending on what's going on in my life at the moment. And so it's really important that we are gentle with ourselves, that we're kind to ourselves, that we're considerate of ourselves whenever we're practicing, and allowing ourselves to be where we are on that day. That is our practice. So if that means that we're able to do a really nice easy hour or 2 hours and it's really flowing and we feel really good and that adds into the day, brilliant, perfect, beautiful. If we find that we have a more challenging practice, we're irritated, we're grumpy, we're dissociated, we're finding it difficult to concentrate, the movements are awkward, I don't feel like I'm in my flow, Great, perfect. That's where we are on that day. That's the practice that day. And we don't need to be overly concerned about that. We can notice, we can acknowledge, we can be present with whatever it is that's coming up. And this is really the mindfulness aspect of practicing Qigong. So we can be aware of what's taking place there, but we don't need to attach to it. We don't need to follow the story involved in it. And we don't need to be overly connected to that space. We can just notice and continue the practice. And it's possibly one of the hardest parts of it for me, for others, is to remain in that sense of being focused, allowing the practice to be what it is on that day. Even the temperature, the air pressure, the room that we're in, there's all sorts of factors that can change the way that we experience our practice each day, and allowing ourselves to just be with that. It is what it is today. I don't need to concern myself. I do what I'm capable of doing. I do what I feel is appropriate to do. I listen to my body. One of the reasons why there's a range of practices available here on the site, and why there are some 3,500 Qigong forms that you can go and learn out there, is that there are different forms that suit different conditions. There are different forms that suit different times of year. There are different forms that suit us just depending on different moods, different awarenesses. And if you study Life Force Qigong with Simon Calder through the Life Force Qigong system, you get to experience all of that information, and you'll get to understand the emotions, the elements, the body in very different ways. And so here, where you're using my practice videos as a guide for yourself, you're actually just choosing the practice that you feel appropriate for on that day. And that might be several practices. That might be nothing more than a shaking practice. That might be nothing more than a joint opening practice. You may just want to keep it really, really simple, really, really soft. And it can make a significant difference for you to do that, because you're honouring that inner knowing. We don't have this schedule of I must, I ought to, I need to. The question is, what do I require right now? And am I able to allow myself to do that without judgment, without criticism, and just be in that space with myself as I practice? So it's really important that you just allow yourself that space. Listen to your body. This is the whole point of Ting, Ting Jin, listening to my essence, listening to what's taking place, being present within that, being soft and gentle to myself within that, being kind to myself within that, being compassionate within my practice of that. There's no doubt that for the majority of cases, some practice will be beneficial. And that might be a little bit, it might be a gentle practice, it might be a light practice, maybe it's just a sitting practice, maybe it's just a standing practice. And standing is a beautiful way when you're struggling with things going on inside. That if you stand, you can just allow yourself to be in stillness, and that all of the other stuff going on around inside or around you in the environment, we need to pay it no mind. We're just allowing ourselves to stand, paying attention to the body, responding to the body, and doing what we can on that day. And if that's 1 minute, that's 1 minute. If that's 10 minutes, that's 10 minutes. If that's an hour, that's an hour. If it's grumpy, it's grumpy. If it's exciting, it's exciting. This is why we can use so many different forms and work with them in so many different ways. So I just wanted to put this into these films as a note, so that as you're working with yourself, you can be aware of that, and you can be an allowance and be compassionate and give permission to that as well, rather than judging yourself as right, wrong, good or bad, successful, unsuccessful within those senses. We can just allow the practice to be what it is each day. And on the days where I do very little practice, or on the days where my practice is challenging, I just allow that. And I just allow that to take place, and then I'm able to go, okay, today, what do I want? Today, what's capable? Today, what am I willing to do? What am I wanting to do? Where is my own intuitive impulse? Where's my own authentic impulse leading me in my practice? And just listen to that and follow that, and you'll find that a really helpful and a really beneficial thing. So be gentle with yourself, be kind, and as you choose whatever practice you're going to do today, choose it caringly, and choose it lovingly and compassionately for yourself. Body, what movement would really support you right now? What can I do to help you right now? And if you ever have any questions or you would like support or guidance with that, you can have one-to-one sessions with me, and we can do your practice, we can do your qigong, and we can work through that. So take this on, and hopefully that will be a nice contribution to your practice today. So have a fabulous day, and enjoy whatever it is you do. Thank you.